Knife fights aren't like the movies. They're fast, messy, and completely unforgiving. Most of the techniques people swear by are flat out stupid, and they can leave you seriously injured or worse. Today, I'm going to break down 5 of the dumbest mistakes that even so-called experts still teach. Let's check it out. If you're familiar with my channel, you know I keep it real and I call out bad training and outright bullshit. But more importantly, I teach you what actually works in real violence. And when it comes to knife fighting, the biggest offenders are everywhere. The amount of unrealistic, compliant, fantasy-based knife work being taught is off the charts. And it's incredibly dangerous because the consequences can be deadly. So today, I'm going to cover 5 of the dumbest mistakes people make in knife fights. And stick around to the end because the last one is the most dangerous. And it's something that's widely taught and it completely collapses under real combat pressure. And I'm also going to show you what actually works in a real knife fight. The first mistake we have is bluffing. And by that I mean you pull out your knife, but deep down internally, you're really not ready to engage in a knife fight. But you're doing it with the hope that he's gonna back down. This is a huge mistake. You never ever pull out a blade unless you intend to use it. No matter what, you have to remember, anytime you use a knife, you better be legally and morally justified to use it. And more importantly, you better have the skill set to use it effectively. Now I know some of you guys are gonna say it's a deterrent. Let me tell you something. You're hoping that that individual is gonna back down. What if he doesn't back down and you're not psychologically prepared for a knife fight? You're gonna end up in a body bag. Now this is something instructors don't teach you, and I don't care if you study Filipino martial arts or some sort of combatives. The bottom line is you have to be mentally prepared for the knife fight. In most cases, people are not wired for it. It's a certain type of person that can actually use this weapon and plunge it into another individual. And you guys who romanticize knife fighting, you go ahead and you train in your different martial arts, you people have no clue of actually how horrific this thing is. It is the most brutal and intimate form of combat, bar none. And just to be clear, these corrections come directly from my Contemporary Fighting Arts knife fighting program. This is not theory. These are fighting concepts that have been pressure tested and built specifically for real-world knife combat. I also break this down in detail in my books, Knife Fighting, a step-by-step guide to practical knife fighting for self-defense, and Knife Fighting Targets, the ultimate knife fighting targeting system, where I teach realistic, no-nonsense knife fighting skills for real-world encounters. These books cover everything you need to know about knife fighting, from knife selection and grips to stances, footwork, targeting, knife retention skills, and so much more. I'll put a link in the description down below if you'd like to check it out. And if you want to take your training even further, be sure to check out my full-length instructional video, Warblade, that dives deep into real-world knife fighting skills. It's available for sale on my website at sammyfranco.com. And if you're a War Machine Elite member, you can watch it for free inside the members only section of this channel. And if you're not a War Machine member, click the join button below to check out all the different membership options we have available. The next mistake people make is not having a tactical stance. I've addressed this so many times in my knife fighting videos, and I'm just astounded by the idea that in all these different martial arts that teach knife fighting, they do not have a tactical knife fighting stance that minimizes target exposure but facilitates deployment of the weapon. So Tommy, just assume a typical knife fighting stance that they generally teach. Okay, so the hand's on the chest, his body's angled, and the knife's in front. This is what 99.99% of the people teach. And this stuff is crap. It's garbage. In contemporary fighting arts, we have a tactical knife fighting stance that protects the blood vessels and flexors, our throat, and our internal organs. This is our tactical knife fighting stance. The idea is to get small. Now compare it to Tommy's typical knife fighting stance. Which is more tactical? Which is ready for actual kinetic energy and engagement? This stance is. This is the only one that's going to save you guys in a real knife fight. Let's compare the two stances. Which stance conveys expertise? Which stance looks like a hobbyist? Which one would you rather face, this guy or someone like this? Now, I always talk about the psychological aspects of combat, and more importantly, in knife fighting, that's just as critical. Not only do you have to have knife fighting skills, but you also have to have a psychological advantage. You want to intimidate your adversary, but of course, you have to back it up with actual skill. This has an intimidation factor. This does not. Important, always assume a tactical knife fighting stance. But let me tell you something. Look at all the different knife fighting systems you see online and social media. They do not have tactical stances. And this is just one example of people who are not really teaching real-world knife combat. The next mistake people make is assuming that a knife fight is some sort of duel, where Tommy and I square off and we both take turns cutting each other's hands, moving around, trying to get an advantageous position. This is not a knife fight. And let me tell you something. You go against a real hardened, seasoned knife fighter, someone who just got out of Folsom prison, and you try that bullshit, you're gonna end up having this stuck under your rib. You are not gonna have that type of encounter. People aren't gonna move around like it's some sort of sparring match. And once again, this is the typical sparring mentality that has corrupted and confused the entire martial arts community. You people think that sparring hand-to-hand or sparring with knives is how actual combat unfolds. It does not. Combat, as I've said 100,000 times, is dynamic, it's explosive, and it has raw kinetic energy. Now let me tell you the real truth. If you and I were engaged in a knife fight, I'm not gonna play around and try to cut your hand and dance around and get some sort of advantageous position. There's no time for that. Once I pull this knife out, I'm going at you. I'm crashing that line with everything I have and I'm getting this shit over with. I'm not gonna delay it. Tommy, you've been in law enforcement how many years?
28.
28 years, and he's seen more violence than most people can ever dream of. What would you do?
Speed, surprise, and violence. I'm coming right at you and I'm going to go through you and sticking this knife through you.
So you're not going to dance around and cut my hand and move around and play like some sort of game?
No fight ever goes like that. It is direct. It's two bulls crashing.
Okay. And more importantly, I talked about the wiring of somebody who uses a knife in real combat. These people are not like the regular people you see in everyday world. These are not people who train in your dojo. These are not people who practice the Filipino martial arts. These are vicious savages who have no problem taking your stomach out with this knife. Since we're talking about knives, let's take a little detour and talk about the CFA V-grip. This is used if a man has a knife and he's unarmed and he uses our CFA V-grip to control it. Now, there's a lot of criticism about this, saying that, for example, if he applies the V-grip, the knife fighter can punch him. You're out of your mind. Do you have any idea the amount of kinetic energy that's going to happen in this moment in time? When Tommy V-grips, he's going to put me all the way through that drywall while he's driving headbutts, knee strikes, and then going for throat crushing techniques. So you instructors out there, you know exactly who I'm talking to, who are saying that if he does a V-grip, I can punch him. You're out of your mind and you have no business teaching self-defense. You need to find another line of work. How on earth are you going to effectively launch a punch when I'm driving this into him and he's crashing forward? Are you out of your mind? I mean, what planet are you on? And it's funny, every time I bring this up, it's crickets. They never have an argument because there is no argument. You cannot argue with logic. Also, one more, because you know what? Let's just do it. Another argument is this. I drive it in, he V-grips, and I magically switch it to this hand, and then I stab him. Are you out of your mind? Kinetic energy. Kinetic energy, kinetic energy. That is what happens in real combat. And you people forget about that. Really, you should give up your days teaching self-defense. And if that advice can't get any worse, this instructor also teaches that you can kick. For example, if Tommy V-grips, that I can kick him in the groin to somehow disturb the V-grip. Again, you are out of your mind. You have no business teaching reality-based self-defense, because if you did know what you were doing, you would realize that this is so kinetic, so violent, and if you want me to replicate this, you're out of your goddamn mind. This guy has so much adrenaline, so much energy, kinetic energy. He is going to plow through me. You people who teach knife work have no business doing it because you have not done your homework. Hey, we're about to get back into the video, but let me ask you something. Do you want to legitimately accelerate your self-defense skills? And are you sick of clickbait videos teaching absolute garbage? Or tired of being misled by unqualified wannabe experts who have zero credibility or experience? If the answer is yes, now is the time to join my War Machine memberships. As a member, you're going to get exclusive access to in-depth training videos, exclusive full-feature video content, downloadable training PDFs, and direct insights you're not going to find anywhere else. Plus, you're going to have direct access to me in the comment section of all my videos. So if you have questions, you're going to get real, detailed answers from me and not some random keyboard warrior. So if you're serious about mastering real-world combat skills, hit the join button below and start training like a true war machine. Now, let's get back to the lesson. Next, we have footwork. People think that there's some sort of specialized footwork when it comes to knife fighting. That is bullshit, especially in the Filipino martial arts knife fighting community. They believe that triangle footwork will work against a vicious knife fight. These people are lying to you. It will never work. Is there footwork in knife fighting? Absolutely, but not the complicated nonsense that's taught in 99% of knife fighting systems. You have your feet shoulder width apart, knees bent, 50-50 weight distribution. You do not cross step when knife fighting. And here's the interesting point about CFA's footwork. We use the identical footwork we use in unarmed combat. So you're not crossing domains and having to switch types of footwork. It's all the same. So everything you train for unarmed applies for armed combat. And if you want to learn about our footwork in CFA, it's in the Warblade program and in the books I mentioned in this video. And now, the final and biggest mistake people make in knife fighting is trying to apply knife fighting disarms. Knife fighting disarms, as taught in all the different martial arts schools, including Filipino martial arts, will never work in a real encounter. Now, I'm not saying knife disarms won't work. I'm saying knife fighting disarms will not work. There's a distinction. Tommy, here's an example of a typical knife fighting disarm that people practice, which will never work and it's going to end up getting you killed. Tommy attacks with an overhead stab. I triangle footwork out. I hook it in midair. Try it again, Tommy, so they can see it. I hook it in midair, mind you. Grab the elbow, align my blade against his blade, and I snap it out, allowing me to slash, slash, and stab. That is one of the many ridiculous techniques that are taught as actual knife fighting disarms. This is pure bullshit. Never, ever, ever apply this type of technique. Here's another knife fighting disarm that will never, ever work in a real combat situation. Tommy's gonna gut me. I'm going to triangle out. I'm going to hook the actual knife attack. He's freezing in midair because he's such a good compliant partner. And of course, in real knife combat, your attacker is going to be just like this too. So once I come here, I'm going to reach over and grab the wrist. I'm going to flex it down, place the blade over blade. I'm going to force it against the thumb. I'm going to apply a wrist lock, and then I'm going to commence with a bunch of stabbing techniques. If you people are practicing this and you think it has any type of application to real world knife combat, you really need to see someone in mental health counseling.
Hey guys, I don't talk much, but check out the merch page. Cool designs, You might really appreciate it. I'd appreciate it if you bought one. I'd appreciate it if 3 of you buy one, because for every 3 you guys buy, I get one. So take a look, check out the merch page.
Knife fighting is incredibly dangerous, and you need to be very careful who you allow to influence how you think and train. Bad information in this area isn't just ineffective, it can have serious life-altering consequences. If you're looking for no-nonsense, reality-based knife fighting skills, make sure you check out the resources I mentioned, my knife fighting books, and the Warblade instructional video. Also, don't forget to drop a comment and tell me which knife fighting mistake you see taught online. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys at the next video.
From the ancient Colosseum, where gladiators lived and died, to the storm-torn seas, where iron met flesh upon shattered decks, to the battlefield, where wrath carved kingdoms in blood, bone, and steel, we follow the War Machine. War Machine Chronicles celebrates the warrior archetype, the ethos society seeks to suppress, to soften, to erase. From the age of iron and blood, where warriors roared defiance in the face of death, to all men who still feel the war drum beat beneath their skin, written for fighters, soldiers, and survivors. For those who still walk the edge, it is transformation, forged to harden the mind, discipline the body, and sharpen the will. War Machine Chronicles, not just a book, it's a sacred codex of wrath. Over 300 pages, more than 100 haunting illustrations, combat verse, and lethal philosophy forged by Sammy Franco. War Machine Chronicles, not just a story, but a weapon. It teaches, it tests, it transforms. War Machine Chronicles, available now on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle.